In the summer of 1590, an English sailor rowed toward a small island off the coast of what is now North Carolina, expecting to find more than 100 friends and family members waiting for him. Instead, he found silence. Abandoned houses. A dismantled fort. And a single word carved into a wooden post. The people he had come to rescue had vanished without a trace, and more than 4 centuries later, we still don't know where they went. The story begins in 1587, when a group of about 115 English men, women, and children landed on Roanoke Island. They were meant to build England's first permanent settlement in the New World, a foothold on a continent the English barely understood. Their leader was John White, an artist and mapmaker who had sailed to these shores before. Among the colonists were his own daughter and her husband, and soon, his newborn granddaughter. That granddaughter, Virginia Dare, became the first English child born in the Americas. Her birth was a hopeful sign, a symbol that this fragile colony might actually take root. But hope was thin on the ground. The settlers had arrived too late in the season to plant their crops. Relations with the local indigenous tribes were tense and quietly worsening. And their supplies were already running dangerously low. The colonists begged John White to return to England for help. He resisted at first, because leaving his family behind was unthinkable. But he was the only one with the standing to secure more ships and supplies. Reluctantly, he agreed. He promised he would be gone only a few months, just long enough to gather what they needed and come straight back. He could not have imagined how tragically wrong that promise would prove to be. When White reached England, he sailed straight into history. War had erupted between England and Spain, and every seaworthy vessel was seized for the coming fight against the Spanish Armada. No ship could be spared to cross the Atlantic for a small, struggling colony. White pleaded, argued, and waited. The crossing he had promised in a matter of months stretched painfully into years, while his family waited an ocean away. It was not until 1590, 3 long years later, that John White finally set foot on Roanoke again. By grim coincidence, it was his granddaughter's 3rd birthday. He climbed the shore calling out, hoping for the sound of voices, the smell of cooking fires, any sign of life at all. What greeted him instead was an empty, overgrown settlement, stripped bare and utterly silent. The colony he had left behind seemed to have simply dissolved. There was no sign of a struggle. No bodies, no fresh graves, no evidence of a battle or a massacre. The houses had been taken down carefully and deliberately, as if the colonists had left in an orderly way rather than fleeing in panic. And then White found the clue that has haunted historians ever since. Letters, carved with intention into a wooden palisade post standing at the edge of the settlement. The word was Croatoan. On a nearby tree, carved into the bark, were 3 more letters, CRO. Before he had left, White had made a careful arrangement with the colonists. If they were ever forced to leave, they were to carve the name of their destination. And if they left in distress, in danger, they were to add a cross above the letters. There was no cross. Just the name, standing alone. Croatoan was the name of a nearby island, known today as Hatteras, and of the friendly indigenous people who lived there. To White, the carving seemed like a message of hope. The colonists had gone to live among the Croatoan. It should have been a trail he could follow, a thread leading straight to his family. But a fierce storm was rising, his crew refused to risk the treacherous coast, and the ships were forced to turn back to England. John White never saw his family again. He died in England years later, never knowing what became of his daughter, his son-in-law, or little Virginia Dare. The colony he had helped found had become a ghost story, an open wound in the early history of America. And the search for answers would fall to generations who came long after everyone who remembered the colonists was gone. So what actually happened to the lost colony? The most widely accepted theory follows the carving itself. The settlers, running out of food and hope, may have integrated with the Croatoan or other coastal tribes. For centuries, travelers reported encountering native communities with gray eyes, English words, and stories of ancestors who could read from books. Recent excavations on Hatteras Island have uncovered European artifacts mixed together with native ones. But other theories persist and refuse to die. Some believe the colonists tried to sail back to England themselves and were lost at sea. Others argue they were killed by hostile tribes or Spanish patrols, or scattered and absorbed into more than one group. Archaeological sites further inland, marked by strange pottery and a symbol hidden beneath a patch on an old map, hint that at least some may have moved west. No single theory has ever been proven. Modern science keeps chipping away at the mystery. Archaeologists sift through soil for beads, nails, and fragments of pottery, and researchers have even proposed DNA testing to trace possible descendants of the colonists among living families today. Each discovery narrows the possibilities just a little, yet none has ever closed the case. The truth may lie scattered across a dozen different sites, and a dozen different bloodlines, waiting to be pieced together. More than 400 years later, the lost colony of Roanoke remains one of history's most enduring puzzles. A settlement that simply dissolved into the American wilderness, leaving behind one cryptic word and a silence that has never fully been broken. Somewhere in the sandy soil of the Carolina coast, or in the memory of families who never knew what they carried, the answer may still be waiting. And until it is found, Roanoke keeps its secret.